Unstoppable Tracy, host of the Today Show on your TV, TDC, as well as host of Unstoppable You on Roku, TDC, the Disability Channel. We are excited to have all of you joining us today because we have a seating specialist. Her name is Yvonne Powell, and what's extraordinary about Yvonne is she's somebody out there in a community doing the job and can talk about some tips and tricks with seating, as well as a resource for those of you in the Halton region. With over 55 years, Brant Arts IDA has been a local resource, and we have guest Yvonne Powell joining us right after the break. So if seating is your game, be back soon.
Are you currently on ODSP? If you're interested in social media marketing, TV production, podcasting, or getting off assistance, please contact Jay Stoyan at 647-339-6847 or Jay at thedisabilitychannel.ca. The Disability Channel, showcasing abilities.
For the episodes of Veterans Onward to Prosperity, I'm your host, Master Sergeant Retired Anna Maria Bliven, bringing you every week information, resources, and sources that help tackle the issues and situations that occur when transitioning from military to civilian life.
Hello, I am Unstoppable Tracy, and I am so excited to have guest today, Yvonne Powell, on the Today Show and on Unstoppable You. And what's unstoppable about Yvonne is that she's a seating specialist at Brant Arts IDA Pharmacy, over 55 years in the community, and we have her today. Welcome, Yvonne.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's so great to have you here. I love the way your glasses match your sweater.
I know. I always get compliments on my glasses.
On your glasses. No wonder. Yeah. And so not only are you a sassy glasses sporter, you're also a seating specialist.
I am for many years.
For many years. So tell us a bit about the beginning of your journey. How did you fall into being a seating specialist?
Well, I had started out, I had gone back to school. Knew I wanted to get into healthcare and just happened to be looking through brochures and such. And I seen the OTA, which is Occupational Therapy and Physiotherapy Assistant Program, and thought it would be an interest. So I ended up, going to college for a couple of years, graduated, started in, actually in Hamilton at a outpatient rehab facility. So having people come in, basically the people with back issues or carpal tunnel, anything like that. I worked there for a couple of years, and I knew that wasn't really what I wanted to do. I wanted to work in a hospital. So I put a resume into West Lincoln Hospital in Grimsby, and I actually got the position, and I was inpatient rehab for, I think I worked there for about 11 or 12 years.
Wow.
That I was, so loved it.
Hamilton, Brant.
Yep, all over the place. So
hospitals, outpatients.
Yeah, I learned a lot in the rehab, in the inpatient rehab. And then I was offered a position. Well, a friend of mine who had actually been working in Hamilton for, at that point, was Dell Pharmacy, which is now Rexall. Asked me if I wanted to do be a seating specialist, and I said, yeah, got the job, and that's kind of where I started. So I've moved a couple of times. This is so this is my last move. Love it, and I'm here now. Our office is in Burlington, but we actually my service area is Burlington. I do a bit of Burlington, Hamilton, Stony Creek, Ancaster, Dundas, Haldimand, Norfolk. And we do actually, so the mobility section here has always been at Brant Arts. We actually, when I came here a year ago, started doing it out in the community. So normally for Brant Arts, it was people coming into the store. I do the outsides, all the outside sales. So I now do manual wheelchairs, power chairs, scooters, walkers, bath safety, hospital beds, basically anything that you need. If we can get it, we will. If we can't, we'll point you in the right direction. So yeah, that's kind of my background.
Your background, and like internal and external, like out and in, is sort of how you also fell into this role, internal and then out in the world.
Yeah.
So you were kind of unstoppable about making this position fit for you, and then you're working with people that are refinding their unstoppable and giving them aids to their mobility and their activities of daily living so that they can be as unstoppable as possible all over again.
Exactly.
What's a tip or trick that you learned, starting as a student out there in the community, and you've had this journey till here? What do you think supported you through your changes and your transitions? You've had a bunch of big transitions in your life.
I have. I think coworkers. I have a couple of coworkers who have actually we've traveled to another job together. So I have to say coworkers. The OT
who we surround ourselves with.
Exactly. The occupational therapists that I work with, I've had relationships with some of them since I've started, probably 15 years, maybe, I think. So yeah, just having a lot of support.
And for you, it was peers in the profession, or for folks that might be visiting you, it might be fellow people with disabilities or injuries or actively aging who have an empathy. Your OTs had an empathy. And then for me, the community of people with disabilities are extraordinary sources too, on top of your expertise. And you have so many things that you're suggesting. Is that something that grew? Like, it's not just a seating specialist, it's a whole gamut of resources.
Oh, most definitely. I deal with skin issues. So there's a lot with a seating specialist. So yes, I know my equipment, but you also have to know people and what each diagnosis brings. So you have to understand the diagnosis to be able to, prescribe the right kind of device for them, or, give the OT, because OTs, we work with them. And yes, they're knowledgeable, but sometimes they also rely on us to know our equipment so that we can pass on what's out there, because they can't keep track of everything that comes out, Yeah, exactly. It's constant. So it's just knowing, it's just, being aware of what's out there, being aware of, what people are looking for, all of the new trends that are out there. And just keeping on top of everything, but also knowing, like, pressure relieving, equipment and things like that. So it's a lot. You have to know a lot of things.
That whole better together approach. And from, like, they're an OT and you're a seating specialist, and I, for example, might be a client. And so hearing my voice and expressing what I'm feeling and needing and requesting. So it's like this.
And family too. I'm not that person to go out and this is what you're having and this is all that you can have. I want people to be happy and feel comfortable and be safe. We always put safety as the most important part. Sometimes we don't have a choice. Sometimes people don't like exactly what we're doing, but if that's what's going to make them safe, then hopefully they trust us enough, with our, profession, that they understand. But safety and people being happy and comfortable is most important.
Now, our listeners that have been lucky enough to start services might understand some of the language and services you're describing, but in general, for people, everybody knows somebody. We don't realize it, but we know somebody. So who are the kinds of people that might benefit from your services so that all of our listeners hearing you today can spread the word?
Yeah. Many different people, anybody who has, it doesn't even have to be, it depends on what you classify as a disability. We have elderly clients, that it's just like they're having difficulty in their home. They want to stay in their home. They're there by themselves, or they have, an elderly spouse. So, we install grab bars, we install handheld showers, we put in bath chairs that makes things easier and safer. All the way to, an MS client or somebody who has a brain injury who needs, a power wheelchair or just a manual wheelchair, whatever best suits them. So yeah, there's lots of things. We do equipment for people that have a hip replacement. So it's just a whole array of people.
Yes. Oh my goodness. So we are a show, and I just want to keep going forward with 1,000 questions and tips and tricks and golden nuggets. Yes, I know. More than we're going to have time for. So if I could ask listeners to hang in there, because she's going to come back with what are the best ways to communicate to ensure that you're getting the services that you need. She's going to share some tips and tricks about how to get the best fitting and find out like options and so many other bits of pieces of golden nuggets so that you are set up for success and that your loved ones are set up for success and that people in your community that might not know of these services, you don't know what you don't know. And so please stay tuned. Yeah. So right after these messages, we will be returning with Yvonne Powell, a seating specialist, and so much more for people who are actively aging, maybe people who had a surgery like a hip replacement, or people with a disability, or people who use chairs, even if it's temporary. A lot of folks don't even have to be officially called having a disability, and they can leverage living in place in their home right after these messages. So stay tuned with Unstoppable You and today's show with Unstoppable Tracy and Yvonne Powell right after these messages.
Thank you.
All about inclusion and really giving everyone a fair say.
Welcome to the Today Show. This is our flagship show. I am Unstoppable Tracy.
I am Zach Damon.
It is a pleasure to be here. I am excited. What is up?
We have a great show today.
Jay Stoyan here for the Disability Channel, the world's only inclusive channel for and by persons with disabilities.
Get ready to be inspired, everyone.
We have people watching from all over the world, but also all over Ontario.
We also take a concerted attention in the veterans community.
In moments of stress and trauma, we can get a hold of ourselves.
To help make a difference for people with disabilities, to show people how to love themselves or their disability.
I appreciate it. I appreciate you guys having me, giving this platform for myself and other people with disabilities.
Thank you so much, folks, for joining us for this episode of the Disability Channel of Detroit. Please tune in next time.
Welcome back, folks. If you're just joining us now, I'm Unstoppable Tracy with guest Yvonne Powell. She is with Brant Arts IDA, and she has been an OT, PT, seating specialist, working with inpatient, outpatient, and now she's reaching out in the community in this wacky pandemic to set people up for success for activities of daily living in their home, whether you've had a surgery, whether you use a wheelchair, whether you have actively aging parents, whoever you are, spread the word. And she's also realizes that this show is international. We have a lot of Halton viewers on your TV, Kojiko, but people around the world. So I'm going to focus some of our conversation and questions and tips and tricks. How do you suggest people get started? They've just noticed that they're falling, or they've just had a surgery, or somebody they love is struggling. What do you think are the first steps that you suggest?
Yes. Give me a call. lots of times people just call because they don't know. They get lots of different information, I guess. And some of it's, the right information and some of it's not. And unfortunately, it can be very confusing for people. So I suggest, give me a call. You can also call the LIN, which is through the government. So,
and can you elaborate on the LIN?
Yeah.
What is it?
It's the Local Health Integrated Network. So normally you can
integrated network.
So it's a government funded program. Yeah. So you give them a call if they can point direction. A lot of times you have to go on a waiting list. If you've been in hospital, you automatically, so if you've been in the hospital and you're discharged from the hospital, automatically you were set up with an occupational therapist coming to your home to do an assessment as to what you need. If you're in the community and you need something, giving somebody like myself a call, we often can point you in the right direction. Sometimes people can purchase things on their own. I do suggest that people always go through an occupational therapist. It's always the best. There's an assessment done. It's very hard for me if I don't go out to your home to tell you what kind of equipment you need or anything like that. So it's much better to have an occupational therapist. There is private therapists. You do have to pay for the assessment, but it's the best way to go. Often people will go out and buy things that they don't really need and then find out later that it doesn't even work and you can't return it because you've used it. So
yeah. I actually bought 3 walkers for my mom. And you think I know better.
Yeah. So I always suggest having an occupational therapist come out to your home and do an assessment as to what equipment you need. And don't go purchase too much.
Yes, without a little bit of expertise injection.
Exactly.
And you say people like me. So do they go to a pharmacy or their local pharmacy and then say, can you please connect me with a specialist, an equipment specialist? And then they'll
not so much a pharmacy, but you want to go to a home health. So somebody who actually deals in like a mobility. So somebody who sells wheelchairs and walkers and such. Normally, just a local pharmacy isn't going to be able to give you that type of information. But I think the best way to do is either calling a mobility specialist or a seating specialist like myself, or calling the LIN, which and getting some information, getting set up to have an assessment done.
And LIN stands for, again?
The Local Health Integrated Network.
Local Health Integrated Network. And that's in Canada. Is that right, Yvonne? Yes. Canada-wide.
I don't know if it's Canada.
Definitely Ontario.
It's Ontario for sure. The same as the Assistive Devices Program for mobility. It's Ontario.
Assistive Devices Program is for Ontario because we do have some international listeners. But that this information will, if you've been in a hospital, when you're exiting, when you're outpatient, they'll connect you. But who's a mobility specialist in the city and country that you live in to realize these kind of resources will be set up? Not everybody realizes that there's conscious effort for these resources out there.
No, you're right. There's a lot of people that don't know, and there's so much, and they get kind of, caught up in, and they've had so much going on, especially sick or their health, their spouse or family members sick. It can be very overwhelming for people. They've been looking after people for so long, and then they're getting all of this information. And so I try to things and give people phone numbers or make phone calls just to try to take some of the burden off.
Which is incredible. And you talked about, occasionally there's a fee involved, but you also know of funding sources like ADP and others, maybe March of Dimes for home modification. And so it depends on the person and their unique circumstance, but you can connect them to resources as well for funding.
Yes, either my functional therapist will also help with that. So whether it be, if it's going to go through the Assistive Devices Program or ADP, that has to go through an occupational therapist who is an authorizer for ADP. But then they also help people fill out, the March of, so people can go through their local Legion. There's lots of places around some of the community groups that help people
that are below a certain income bracket.
Yes,
Not
exactly.
everybody. Yes.
Not everybody. Now, ADP does income you are to be able to access ADP. ADP does not matter, but when it comes to March of Dimes, special income, and every community has a different funding source. Yes. Yeah. Not everybody has the same.
Right. And so how do people become subject matter experts in their education as an OT, as a mobility specialist, but every single person with a disability and their home is a unique environment and a unique person. But for example, I was born missing my arms and my legs, and I'm an athlete, sailing, climbing mountains, whereas somebody that maybe has diabetes and ends up an amputee through that process might have been sick a while and in bed for a while. So their ability versus mine is going to be unique and different. Exactly. What's the best way to have a conversation with someone like yourself and someone like an occupational therapist to feel like you get to be self-expressed? They're the expert. And I'd love to answer that right after a commercial. So I'll give you some time to think about it during the commercial. But how do people engage in productive conversations with you all, or something along those lines, right after these messages? I'm Unstoppable Tracy, host of the Today Show, host of Unstoppable You, and I am so proud to have guest Yvonne Powell from Brant Arts IDA. Her specialty title is seating specialist, but she's basically an equipment specialist in all things activities of daily living. And so you want to tune in afterwards for how do we have these conversations with these professionals? How do we generate a productive conversation? We'll say right after these messages. Stay tuned.
Are you currently on the Ontario Disability Support Program? If you're interested in social media marketing, TV production, podcasting, and or getting off assistance, contact Jay Stoyan at 647-339-6847 or jay@thedisabilitychannel.ca. The Disability Channel, showcasing abilities.
Hi, my name is Julia Ramaldi. Please come join us on the Disability Channel. Please stay tuned. We have amazing guests.
Welcome back. I am Unstoppable Tracy with a guest, Yvonne Powell. She is a seating specialist. I like to call her an equipment specialist because she knows things from grab bars to beds to all sorts of bits and pieces of activity of daily living when you're going through a surgery or you've had a life change, you're actively aging, but slipping in a shower, or maybe your loved ones are, your parents or neighbors or someone you know. And so you want to reach out and get a mobility specialist to make sure that you are maximizing your life and being unstoppable and being as safe as possible. And as an unstoppable person, before the break, we were talking about how to ensure we involve the experts. I bought 3 walkers for my mom that didn't end up useful because I didn't involve the experts. But I'm also a really independent, passionate person, and I want to ensure that what I'm experiencing is heard in my unique ways. And so I'm kind of putting poor Yvonne on the spot and saying, what works best for you? Who do you like in a client? How do we generate a relationship that works best for all parties?
Mm-hmm. I think the most important part is just making sure the client knows that you're there to help them. I'm not there to sell them a piece of equipment. If it doesn't work, we'll keep looking. Making sure that the family knows. Having family involved sometimes is what we need to do too. But I think the most important is just be caring. Don't if you put a piece of equipment in and somebody doesn't like it, fix it, change it. Don't just leave them and say, oh, there's nothing I can do now, because, that it is what it is. So yeah. And just having the occupational therapist, and I think having a relationship with the occupational therapist, or could be a physiotherapist that you're working with, is very important too. Working well together, to be able to help the client.
Yes. And I think that that's all three sides of the conversation. I think it's important that as clients, we remember that you're humans too.
Yes.
And you are definitely there to help. And so the kinder and more caring and friendly we can be, we are experiencing a big life change or a struggle, and we're desperate for a fast solution, and can certainly be intense at times. I know there's the other side too. We feel like, oh, we got this walker, so now what are we going to do? I don't want to be mean. They're so friendly. How do I tell them it doesn't work? And so there's two ends of the coin, almost too demanding and forgetting you're human and willing to have a conversation, to the other end where we're too agreeable and afraid to speak up. And I think it's important that it looks like you have something to say about that spectrum.
We get both of those. We do get both of those type of people. So we really try hard to just talk with them and make sure, are you sure this is what you want? And just to make sure we want everybody to be happy and again, safe and comfortable. So.
Yes. I have an analogy in my sporting world, which is the wall. How do we break the barrier or the wall? And I think it works in this kind of conversation too, where you watch. You got to try it and see. You don't know till you watch and practice and experience it. And then a lot of asking, WALL, a lot of asking. Ask, how's that feeling? What's working? And then they're really listening to what's working and not, and learning.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
did I trigger any memories or stories that you're able to share without reaching confidence?
Oh gosh, there's so many.
I bet.
So many. I can tell one I still stands is giving a fella in Hamilton a scooter, and he hadn't been out of his apartment, and he ended up calling the occupational therapist. He got himself a scooter, and now he was able to go to Tim Hortons, and he went to Tim Hortons every day, and he was happy. He said, this is the best thing that ever happened. So there are always the good stories, that you hear, or having the person that you has been in their home. And I see a lot of people that they've been in their house for a couple of years. They're not able to walk or to get out of their apartment. And we give them the piece of equipment, and the next thing you know, in the store they come. And you're just, it just makes you happy. They're
like, hi, Yvonne, here I am.
Well, I sometimes when I sell people, or when people get, powered chairs or what have you, I'm like, I hold them to it. I want to see you out in the community. So it's always nice to hear stories afterwards. So
extraordinary. So we only have a couple minutes left. I know, how do people that live in Halton, now we have people from around the world, but say the Halton people want to find you. Your store's been there for 55 years, and you're not your average pharmacy because you have so many services.
We do. So our address is 672 Brant Street. So we're right in Burlington. We have parking. There's parking in the back. There's parking in the front. It's accessible to come in. You can come in and go right into the pharmacy, and we do have a home health section in the pharmacy area. The girls are awesome. They're always there to help, whether it's beaker, bath safety, anything like that. And then also, if you want to look at somebody to come to your home, because not everybody can get out. So there's somebody to come to your home for equipment. That would be me. So you would give me a call, or even pharmacy, and just tell them what you're looking for, and they can, point you in the right direction and get you to me. So
how do they, you keep saying, reach out to me. How do they get you?
So they can do a couple ways. You can call, they can call my office number. There's two extensions. You can call myself, you can call Danielle, who is the manager, and she can point you, in the right direction or pass me a message. Also email. So,
and is there a website that shares your phone number and email?
Yeah. So website is brantarts.ca.
Nice. Brant, BRANTARTS, Brant Arts, because of the art of a perfect fit.ca for .Canada.
Yeah.
Brant Arts with an S.
Yeah. So for me, I book by appointment. So I have appointments booked Monday to Friday from usually 9 o'clock until the end of the day. So I'm not in the pharmacy, in the home health in the pharmacy, you can walk in. But I can't do that because I'm not often in the office. I'm out with occupational therapists doing, wheelchair assessments, deliveries of equipment, etc. So
that's incredible. And as a closing thought, is there a mentor, a teacher, a coworker, a peer, somebody that you love the gift that they gave you, like a sentence or a memory or a lesson or a golden nugget or a tip for people with disabilities? One of your a little takeaway for everybody as our closing thought.
I couldn't even say there was even one. I have learned so much from my occupational therapist that I worked on, and even just clients. Like, I don't really, getting little letters. I've received notes with payment, like, thank you so much. I actually hang them up. I have them hung up on my bulletin board. I don't know if I could come with, up with just one, just be kind and people and
Nice.
Yeah.
And a tip to avoid skin breakdown.
Try to move as much as possible. If that's, get up and walk, if you can. Even I tell people, even, standing for a minute and sitting back down, weight shift. So I often tell people, if you're sitting in a chair and you're not able to stand, weight shift back and forth. And if that's not possible, then that's when we need to look at seating or something on your chair, specialty pressure relieving cushions, etc. So, but we always, when it comes to skin breakdown, yes, I'm a big advocate for skin breakdown. I don't like to see it happen. And a lot of times people don't even, when I do my action as to, about skin breakdown, whether it be to the person, to the client, or to families, they have no idea. So it's explaining things, and it could just be, just like I said, up for a minute every hour, helps.
Yes.
Nutrition, that kind of thing.
So you can hear in an impromptu question how she was loaded with tons of information. You definitely want to reach out to find Yvonne to have a much deeper explanation, a much more personalized experience, so that you can get out and about again, especially now with the pandemic and things are lifting up and opening up again, and the importance of mobility. So many people say, oh, just take a seat, Tracy, and want to keep our loved ones settled, but motion is important for us, and let's keep that motion capable. I want to say thank you so much for joining me, Yvonne Powell. We're at the bottom of the hour. We need to race off and say thank you, listeners, for joining in on the Today Show and on Unstoppable You with Unstoppable Tracy and Yvonne Powell with the Disability Channel and Your TV and Kojiko and Roku. Please be sure to tune in again next week when we have Gabby Mamone with MS and the MS Walk. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Yvonne. Thank you, listeners.